Hi guys, this is Beekeeper Charlotte from Carolina Honeybees Farm, coming to you semi-live from my honey house. It seems that spring has played a cruel trick on us because it warmed up and now winter has come back. So we've had some really cold nights. This time of year the honeybee colony is growing, and on warm days the bees will go out and harvest nectar and pollen, but they can't get it if it's not there. Some of the buds that are still in a very tight stage may still be okay, and in a few days they may open up and provide food for the bees. But the bees could go through a 3 or 4 day period or more when they don't have anything to eat outside. And it's at this critical time, if they do not have enough stores inside the colony, that they could starve. So I'm busy today in the cold wind getting all my materials together so that tomorrow when it warms up I can offer my bees a little bit of food. And the food of choice for honeybees when you don't have honey to give them is sugar water. Now normally I also do not go to Walmart and buy sugar. I like to feed my bees pure cane sugar when I make sugar water. And it has been my experience that if the bag does not say pure cane sugar, it's probably not. Because if it was, they would want to let you know. Still, I did not have time to go to Sam's today. So since this is an emergency feeding measure, I'm not so worried about the fact that it may be a mixture of cane sugar and beet sugar. We're going to feed the bees what we call 1-to-1 sugar water. Equal parts of sugar and water. That means you're going to mix a cup of sugar with a cup of water, or 6 cups of sugar with 6 cups of water, a bucket of sugar with a bucket of water, a wheelbarrow of sugar with a wheelbarrow of water. You get the point. It's not critical. It's okay if the measurement is off a little bit. Now, this is a 25-pound bag of sugar. So I need 25 pounds of water to put with this. And one of the easiest things that everyone has to use is a glass jar. A mayo jar full of water almost to the brim is about 2 pounds of water. I have 25 pounds of sugar. So I'm going to put 13 quarts of hot water in this bucket. And that will be a little bit more than 25 pounds, but it's okay. It can be off just a little bit. Okay everyone, I have my 13 quarts of hot water in my 5-gallon bucket. Now it's time to add this 25-pound bag of sugar to the water. It's a good idea to use hot water, not boiling water, but hot water, because it helps to dissolve the sugar. And you want to do a really good job of stirring up your sugar water. Okay, I've been stirring until my arm feels like it's going to fall off, so I feel like it's ready. Some people will use a drill and a paint stirrer to stir up sugar water. That's fine. I may do that sometimes if I'm putting a lot more sugar, but with 1-to-1 I haven't found it to be worth the trouble of having to clean up. And I have fancy equipment. These are Deli Cat plastic food containers. They have a large lid and they'll hold liquid, and I used to buy them for the barn cat, so I have them. They're clean inside. They may look kind of rough on the outside, but they're clean inside. So I will place it in the sink because this is messy. You can't do it really outside because if it's warm the bees will come after you, but if you do this in your kitchen your significant other may not be happy, so keep in mind that this is messy. So we have our container, we have a funnel, because we don't want to waste the sugar water, it's expensive. And to help get the water into the carrying containers, I have my handy dandy McDonald's big sweet tea. So just get in there and get your sugar syrup and pour it into these smaller carrying containers. There is no way that I would try to carry this 5-gallon bucket of sugar water to the bee yard. It would be like carrying a big bag of candy through a bunch of Halloween trick-or-treating children. You do not want to do it. When I get my container full of sugar water, or almost full, I always add a little bit of Honeybee Healthy. got lemongrass, essential oil, and other things in it that is a secret recipe. The honeybees like it. It acts as a feeding stimulant. I like it because it smells good. And the most wonderful thing about it is that it helps keep my sugar water from spoiling. Sugar water will grow mold if the bees don't eat it quickly. This is especially true in the hot summertime. There are directions on the back of this container that tell you how much to use. I never read those directions. So for each container, I put a glurp of Honeybee Healthy. Yes, a glurp is a technical beekeeping term. We have the sugar water, or most of it, in the small containers that are still heavy, but we can carry to the bee yard. And when I get up there, I will decide whether or not the bees need this. If they do not, or if I don't need to use all of it, I can just freeze it. I can put it in the freezer and freeze it, and later in the year, thaw it out and use it. My 2 feeders that I use, and there are many kinds of beekeeping feeders. They all have advantages and disadvantages. But I use this feeder that I ordered about 10 years ago from Bee Works in Canada. This feeder sits on top of the inner cover, and I have a special ventilated inner cover that I make using some plans that I found on the internet. It's a regular flat inner cover, and it has a little 4 or 5 inch wall built around, and that allows the bees to come up through the hole in the inner cover and come up here, go down this serrated cone, drink the sugar water without getting in here to drown, and get back down in the hive. I like this because it'll hold a good bit of syrup, and I don't have many bees drown, and I can just leave it on the hive all the time. I don't have to have extra equipment once I got my inner covers built to contain this. My second favorite method is just a plain bucket. One of the buckets with the strainer lid that you can get from any bee supply. And this has water in it, but the thing to remember about using bucket feeders or jars with a little bitty hole in the lid as a feeder is they have to create a vacuum. When you have your bucket feeder, it is a little difficult to snap the lid on. And some days I have problems with that. But if you don't get the lid snapped on, you're going to have trouble. When we get the lid snapped on, this water, when I turn it over, some's going to spill out. And that is until the vacuum is created. Once the vacuum's created, and I have this sitting still and in place on the hive, we won't have much spillage. Temperature variations may cause it to weep some, but for the most part it won't cause any trouble. So when you're filling your bucket feeders or jars, keep that in mind. Well, it's like I'm ready for the bees to be fed tomorrow, and maybe I'll get lucky and they won't need this, and that would be awesome. But I probably won't get lucky, and they probably will need this and more. Always be careful with sugar syrup in the bee yard. You don't want to spill it. It can cause the bees to get in a ruckus and want to fight over it and cause all kinds of problems. All we can do now is wait till tomorrow and hope for some sunny, warm weather for the bees and the beekeeper. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about feeding honeybees today. This is just one way of doing it, but it works for me. And this is Beekeeper Charlotte coming to you from Carolina Honeybees Farm in South Carolina.